Can you name the perfect steps of bonding protocol from Pаскаль Манье?
Hi.
Hi, Pascal.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Yes, despite all the conditions, right? A little bit disappointing to have to do this like this, but it's crazy. We are
You're right.
we are facing a complicated situation here. Yeah. Do you hear me well, or the connection is good?
Everything is
Yes.
perfect.
Okay.
So I think we can start.
Okay.
And first question is, why did you decide to become a dentist?
As you know, my brother was in the field before me, right? He became a dental technician when he was basically age 18, I think. And so I could see him, you know, share his passion for dentistry, and he would have immediately participated to dental presentations. He would go to dental meetings as a technician, and he would take pictures during the dental meetings. And every time he would come back, it would be like he would show me all his slides that he took during those meetings, and he would show me his work. And little by little, it was really impressive. And I got really touched by that. But then I started to have to decide what I want to study. So I went to medicine first. So basically, I started to study medicine because in Switzerland, medicine and dentistry is the same thing. At the beginning, the first 2 years are identical. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to start medicine, and I can still decide later after 2 years if I want to really study medicine, or maybe why not going to dentistry. And when I was still in college, I visited my dentist, my own dentist, for 1 week. And so I was with him 1 week looking at his work and just over his shoulder. And you know what's funny? I was mostly impressed by endodontics. And it doesn't make sense to me today.
Yeah.
But when I was over his shoulder and looking at him, with the little endodontic files, and he was going into the tooth and all these little, it was fascinating. I was fascinated by endodontics. And after 1 year of studying medicine, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to switch to dentistry. So after the second year, basically I started dental school in Switzerland. And, so it's a combination of my brother's influence, my own dentist, visiting my own dentist, and that's it. So then here I was in dental school. And to be honest with you, I was not a great student. So I tell that to my students often, when they struggle, I share with them, I was not the best. I was not fast. Some of my classmates were very, very fast, and I was very frustrated to see them. They were done with their work much before me, and I needed to. Yeah, I had to work hard to get to the results that were expected. And it is really interesting to see how the classmates that were very fast, very efficient, right? They were not the ones that, oops, sorry for that.
Okay.
Sorry for that. It's okay. So the classmates that were the most efficient, rapid, impressive, they are not the ones who stayed in the academia. They are the ones who very quickly opened their practice and never taught. And those of us who were maybe more lagging and, you know, not so efficient, we stayed in the academia. Even though I have to tell you, when I graduated, I worked a little bit in private practice for a few years, and I enjoyed very much. It was very, very enjoyable, efficient. But you know what? My goal has been always to do research and to teach, really. So that's why I decided to stay in the academia, also because I thought I can still one day, if I want, go to private practice. But academics is not for everybody.
Now you are the mentor for a lot of dentists, but it's interesting, who was your mentors?
So yes, so very important. There are mentors that are, you know, indirect mentors, and there are mentors that are direct mentors. So indirectly, I remember we had one professor that was extremely military, extremely severe, old style, you know, dictatorial teaching in operative dentistry. And of course, he gave us this discipline of what he called rigorous and high quality dentistry. So he called it rigorous and high quality dentistry. Une médecine dentaire rigoureuse et de qualité in French. And you know, this sentence is like engraved in my brain somewhere here. And he was amazing with his hands, and he taught us amalgam restorations. And you know, it's funny because I have to tell you, in those years, we did not learn many different techniques. I graduated with an excellent knowledge with amalgam restorations, with crowns and bridge, you know, all that basic stuff, but very little, you know, it's not like today we have veneers, we have composites, all the layering techniques, inlays, CAD-CAM, implant dentistry, right? We didn't have all of this back then. So life was, quote, simple. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we graduated with excellent knowledge in a basic number, very limited number of techniques, right? So this mentor in operative had a very strong impact on us, being extremely precise and rigorous, you know, not working on a tooth that had calculus, for instance. I am always shocked nowadays when I go to my students and I see calculus on the tooth they are working on. And I tell them, you know, at my time, if the professor in operative dentistry finds 1 microgram of calculus on a tooth, he would be mad at us, very mad at us, you know. So it's interesting. It gave us this really detailed oriented drive, right? But I have to tell you, my first mentor, of course, was my brother, Michel, because of his influence from dental technology. And then, of course, my second mentor would be Professor Urs Belzer, who basically recruited me and hired me in fixed prosthodontics during my very first years of graduation, after graduation. So Dr. Belzer also gave me this amazing passion for fixed prosthodontics. And back then, let's face it, it was crown and bridge. It was very limited, right? Nowadays, we know it's much more than that. But so Dr. Belzer. And finally, I have a third mentor who is the professor of biomaterials and biomechanics who directed, or let's say supervised my research during my PhD time in Minnesota and Minneapolis, where I went to really become an expert in biomaterials and biomechanics. And I did that because Dr. Belzer one day came to me and said, you know, Pascal, you are very good in the academia now. What is the next step? Do you want to stay there? Then you have to take a research break, go to full-time research. I did it for 1 year. Then I was so happy. I renewed for another year. So I spent 2 years in Minnesota and got married in between and came back with a lot of materials for my PhD. Then got my PhD alongside with the book, because actually I decided to write my first book on the same topic of my PhD. But if you want, my PhD thesis was more for the research people, and the book is more for the clinicians, but it's the same topic basically. And so that was in 2002. And then I have one more mentor, which is the mentors of mentors. And I have to tell you this because that's what it is. That's my feeling, and that's what I believe. And this mentor is God. He's my greatest mentor, and you know.
You are famously known as the father of biomimetic dentistry. Can you please explain what is the biomimetic approach?
So, you know, okay, let me explain you like this. You know, biomimetic dentistry is the gospel of dentistry. It's the good news in dentistry, right? It's the good news. Why? Because it is the driving force behind modern adhesive dentistry. It starts, and for anybody who says, I am a biomimetic dentist, it has to start by claiming that the natural intact tooth is perfect. That the natural tooth made of enamel, dentin, and the dentino-enamel junction is the model for reconstruction. With the pulp, of course, the vital, right? So biomimetics means acknowledging, recognizing, and respecting the fact that the natural intact tooth is our model for reconstruction, and that it is made of a pulp, a vital pulp, so biology, number one. Number two, it has function and mechanics. Mechanics means the function of the enamel, the dentin, as a material, as a tissue, as a hard tissue. And number three is really the cherry on the top, and is the aesthetic value. And if you can keep a tooth alive, which is like, that should be the most important principle in biomimetic dentistry, is to keep a tooth alive, to prevent at all costs the loss of vitality. And I have done, as a young dentist and as a student back in the 90s, 80s and 90s, I have sacrificed pulps in the name of prosthodontics, and that was wrong. We were killing healthy pulps to place post and core buildups. That was wrong. And when I see some of my colleagues today still using those invasive choices to eliminate pulp vitality and place post core buildups, it is wrong. And that is opposing to biomimetic dentistry. So I would say that's number one. Fight against the loss of vitality. I always tell my patients, you cannot win the Olympic Games of of restorative dentistry with a non-vital tooth. Impossible. So fight for vitality. And that means a lot of things, you know, ultra conservative. That means very conservative, deep caries removal. That means optimizing bonding approach, favoring bonding rather than any type of retention and resistance form. This is number one. Number two, using materials that are going to simulate the function of enamel and dentin, right? And when you do those things, that implies function mechanics. So this is biomimetic dentistry. And so the cornerstone of biomimetic dentistry is adhesive dentistry. It's bonding. There is no biomimetic dentistry without bonding. And so you need to be an expert in bonding of your material to the enamel. Believe me, there's a lot of mistakes still people do when they bond to enamel. Bonding, of course, to dentin also, and bonding to ceramics and to porcelain and to composite resin. The dentin bond is the most controversial, but thanks God, we have amazing products and amazing protocols to facilitate dentin bonding. And one of them is called immediate dentin sealing. And so there are lots of other techniques in biomimetic dentistry that we have developed, like thermo-modified luting. We don't use anymore cements, resin cements. We use preheated composite restoratives as luting agent. Another technique that is critical is deep margin elevation, which will avoid you a lot of trouble, like crown lengthening, will avoid you many times to basically lose a tooth because of deep margins and so forth. So this is in a let's say compacted as possible the definition of biomimetic dentistry.
Okay, so let's talk about the Bible in dentistry. About
yes.
let's
yes.
talk about your book. Can you tell the story of the creation of the book?
So basically, I never thought I would write a book in my life, and even less that it would be translated in 12 languages. So basically, after, oh my gosh, I don't remember exactly what year, but it must have been around when I went to Minnesota. Quintessence approached me and they were asking me, many years in a row, they asked me for a book. They asked me for a book. They asked me for a book. Everybody asked me for a book. And then I said, okay, I think it's time that that I make it happen, right? So I started, and Dr. Belzer became my co-author, my mentor, and he really provided the conditions for me to write the book, because it's not easy to teach, to do research, and I was doing my PhD at the same time and do all those things together. But Dr. Belzer really gave me the time to do that. And it took me 2 years to put together my thoughts, but it was not like too difficult in terms of content because I knew exactly what I wanted to say, which is exactly what I explained to you.
Mm-hmm.
It was just putting things together. So it took me 2 years of work and came to the book, to the book that you know. And thanks God, I was able, like in the last 2 years, to come up with a significant update and a new version that I just completed and is now in the hands of Quintessence again, Quintessence Chicago. They have a great team there and they are doing a great job putting together. But this time it will be 2 books in one because there was too much. So I had to, yeah, it will be about 900 pages. So that's why we split it in 500 plus 400. So it will be a case with 2 books. and it will cover the first book. I had decided to focus on the anterior dentition. And in the second book, it will be both anterior and posterior dentition, but with the same idea of biomimetic dentistry, which means always starting with understanding the biomechanics of the tooth, understanding the biomechanic principles of the tooth, understanding the morphology of the tooth. And so there's a huge chapter about morphology, much bigger than the first book. And of course, then looking at all the possible therapeutic approaches. I have opened a door of semi-direct techniques. You know, in the first book, I was looking more at direct and indirect techniques. Now I open a new chapter called semi-direct approach, which are, if you don't know yet, but it's the basically looted, indirect cemented restoration, but made by the dentist in his office.
We will be waiting for your book. I think it will be in Russia very soon.
Yeah, it's in the hand of the publisher, and they are working very hard, but I don't have a timeline. I'm hoping for Easter 2021. That would be perfect.
Okay.
Date.
Okay, we will wait for it. So I have another question for you. As you are the primary source of information about bonding,
yes,
and we all are referring to you. So
thank you.
I have a question: which adhesive is the best nowadays?
Okay, I will try to not mention a brand, and then you can find your way. Okay. As you know, adhesive dentistry has evolved into simplification, right? That's what the manufacturers are trying to develop adhesives that are simpler, faster. And you and me know very well that unfortunately, this development is at the cost of efficiency. So simplified adhesive have many difficulties and problems. And in my opinion, the most problematic aspect of those adhesives is related to their mode of application and to their thickness. And thickness not only of the hybrid layer, but the thickness of the adhesive on top. And we know that whenever you have to air thin an adhesive, right, which is most of those new products, they have to be air thin because everything is in one bottle. So you have solvent and adhesive in the same bottle. The problem with that is that you have to evaporate solvent, you air thin the adhesive. And when the adhesive is air thinned, it is sometimes thinner than the oxygen inhibited layer, which means when you light cure the adhesive, it's not going to polymerize properly. And that is a huge problem. This is the essence of the problem of new adhesives. So there is a way around that. And in a recent research that is still unpublished, we found out that covering those simplified adhesive with a layer of flowable composite enhances significantly their performance, right? So here's, without being too product specific, I would like to say that I think that simplified adhesives are amazing. They are amazing self-etching adhesives that are on the market there. I would say self-etching 2 steps, right? It's very important to have a separate hydrophobic resin coating. And those that are unfilled, now it's becoming a little bit more precise, right? Yeah. Those simplified self-etch 2 steps adhesives that are unfilled or only lightly filled should be protected by an additional layer of flowable composite. Now, the old classic 3-step total etch adhesives are my favorite, and especially products that have a field adhesive, right? So now if you look at 3-step total etch adhesives with a field adhesive, you don't have too many on the market.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the only name I'm going to mention here. It's called Optibond FL. You know very well that the king of self-etch adhesive is SC Bond from Curare. So those are the two products that really stand out. But as I said, Optibond FL has a field adhesive, and then that means this layer of coating, this hydrophobic coating on top of the hybrid layer is thicker. And that is very important for good polymerization. So the advantage of this adhesive is that you don't need an extra layer of flowable resin on top. While with the self-etch, you need that extra resin, flowable resin on top to protect the adhesive from being too thin and from not polymerizing well. So this is my current opinion about adhesives. And you know, if the adhesive cannot be thinned down, that means it's going to polymerize well. You know, if the adhesive has a certain thickness, it's going to polymerize better, right? So keep that in mind, because it's something that many people don't talk about. It's that incomplete polymerization due to oxygen inhibition.
Can you name the perfect steps of bonding protocol from Pаскаль Манье?
Yes, of course. So I think you have to consider two situations, right? But they are very similar. They are direct bonding and immediate dentin sealing. But basically, it's the same protocol of bonding. First, I'm going to focus on dentin bonding, because enamel bonding, I think everybody knows, right? It's etching for 20, 30 seconds with phosphoric acid, 35, 37%, rinsing, drying. I remember when I deliver restorations that are on preparations that have been already dentin sealed, right, with IDS, immediate dentin sealing. When I deliver an inlay, an onlay, or a veneer, I like to alcohol dry the enamel. I use alcohol to dry the enamel. You cannot do that when you do direct bonding to enamel and dentin, because that would dehydrate the dentin. So for dentin bonding specifically, the first step is if your tooth has endodontic treatment. Now you are dealing with not only dentin, but you are dealing with exposed gutta perca and canal sealer, right? And that means when you apply your dentin bonding agent, which has solvent in the primer or acetone and alcohol, you are going to interact with the canal sealer, with the cement in the canal. And so you are going to dissolve the cement. You are going to create a smear that is not going to have a good effect on the dentin bond. And so the first step when you have a tooth with a root canal treatment is to create a small barrier with glass ionomer. So I will always isolate the canal from the rest of the dentin by placing a small glass ionomer barrier on top of the canals. Then you can start your bonding procedure. You can start etching. Okay, actually there's one more step before etching, very important, is freshly cutting the dentin. And because I use a total etch adhesive, I'm going to use a diamond, actually a coarse diamond. And again, recent research that we did show that if you cut the dentin with a coarse diamond, in addition to preheating your appropriate adhesive system, you can get bond strength in the order of 70 megapascal. I like to joke and say megami, 70,000 pascals. Imagine the strength of 70,000 pascals. So preheating the adhesive, and that means you need a unidose system, because adhesives cannot be preheated in a bottle. They have to be in a rocket delivery system. So we use a rocket version of OptiBond FL. Then you need to roughen the dentin with a coarse diamond. But as you know, this works only with total etch adhesives, because when you roughen dentin with a coarse diamond, you are going to create a very thick layer of smear. And that smear is not good for self-etch adhesives. So if you use a self-etch adhesive, you have to clean the dentin. There is one additional step, you know. Then that's why it doesn't make sense to me, because you want to use a simplified adhesive, but you have anyway, you have more steps to do. So it's counterproductive. So with a self-etch adhesive, after cutting your dentin with a diamond, a coarse diamond, why a coarse diamond? Because it's going to make the dentin very irregular, very
like the waves.
And exactly, it's your dentin is going to look like the surface of the ocean when there's a storm, right? With all these waves. And these waves, what do? They increase the surface of contact, which is a basic principle in adhesion in general. You want a rough surface, right? When you etch enamel, what do you create? You create a rough surface. And so the dentino enamel junction is a multi-scalloped rough interface. And the coarse diamond is doing that. So if you are asking me Pascal Magne protocol, number one, you have to roughen dentin, freshly cut and roughen dentin with a coarse diamond. That is going to generate a thick smear layer that is easily eliminated by total etch system. So you are going to etch the dentin. And now you can, the beauty of total etch systems is that you can differentiate between old sclerotic dentin and young freshly cut dentin by choosing an appropriate etching time. And the younger the dentin, the shorter the time, right? So this young freshly cut dentin, you are going to etch only maybe for 10 seconds, while the sclerotic dentin, you can extend your etching time to 20, 25 seconds. And that's the beauty of total etch. Now you can take into account the type of dentin, you see? After etching and rinsing and careful drying, you want to have a dry dentin, but not dehydrated dentin. Then you apply the primer. The primer is basically water and alcohol or other solvents. And you have to basically gently massage the dentin with the microbrush, which is going to infuse the collagen network. We know that with a total etch, you will have a depth of demineralization of about 3 microns, 3-4 microns. And the longer you give the primer, the time to infuse that demineralized layer, the better will be your bond. So I usually apply the primer for several times, several coats, 20 seconds each, with a gentle massage movement to really favor the penetration of the primer into the dentin. After that, you gently eliminate all the excess fluid from the surface of dentin. So basically, you don't dehydrate again the dentin, you eliminate the excess of solvent. That means this moving layer of fluid on the surface of dentin. And you do that with air and suction. And once it's done, you see a shiny dentin. You know, yesterday I was in the student clinic. I apply my primer as long as I told you several layers, and then we dry the primer and the surface of dentin looks completely dull. That means the dentin has completely absorbed the primer. In that case, you need to reapply the primer and give more primer, because when you dry the primer, even though you eliminate the fluid layer on the surface of dentin, you should have a shiny dentin surface. Once this is done, you are going to apply the resin coating, which is the adhesive, bottle number 2 in the case of Optibond FL. And that's a very important component. I will always favor a system that has a separate adhesive resin coating, right? Which is also the case of SE bond, for instance. But that resin coating should not be thin, or if it is thin, it has to be doubled with a layer of flowable composite, right? In the case of Optibond FL, because that layer is filled 48% in weight, when you apply the adhesive, it will make a uniform resin coating, which, very important, in addition of being uniform and thick, it is radio opaque. Not many adhesives are radio opaque, and you want them radio opaque. You know, the other day I have a case, I see this uniform empty gap on the X-ray, and you are like, what is it? Is it a gap or is it an unfilled adhesive? You don't know. So having a radio opaque adhesive system is extremely important. Yeah. Amazing, huh? And so you apply your adhesive, you light cure it, and it's going to light cure properly if it is thick enough, which means what thickness? More than 30, 40 micron. It has to be more than 30, 40 micron. And believe me, many adhesives, simplified adhesives that are air thinned because they need to be air thinned because of the solvent, they end up less than that. And that 30, 40 micron is exactly the thickness of the oxygen inhibition layer. Now you understand how everything is coming around together. Once the adhesive has been light cured, then you can proceed whether it is layering your composite or adding composites for geometric reasons in case of inlays, onlays. You know, you can line additional composite onto the adhesive to increase geometry, to fill in undercuts, to elevate a deep margin, to elevate a deep preparation, so that you stay within range of light curing the inlay when it's a thick restoration. And then once you have done all the above, then you start light curing the composite liner, and then air blocking and light curing again. In case of inlays, onlays, and veneers, I would take the burr after that and re-prep all my enamel margins. You see my son there? You see my son? Okay, Santiago, we saw you. Is, you know, I have to tell you, I'm at home. It's a stay at home. We have a stay at home order here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
The kids are doing homeschool with Zoom, also like us. So we are basically 3 people on Zoom at the moment. And so that's why you may have heard and seen some activities in the background. Anyway, so yeah, I think that after you do your immediate dentin sealing, you can come back and carefully re-prep your enamel margins to have a clean margin. And because dentin sealing, immediate dentin sealing is not for enamel, it's mainly for dentin. So we like to keep the bonding to enamel to the stage of delivery of the inlay, onlay, or veneers. And I even use IDS for crowns, to be honest with you. So I think these were the Pascal Magne bonding procedure. Remember the rough coarse diamond. Remember, you can preheat your adhesive. We use a little heater called CalCet device. You should not preheat the primer more than 10 minutes, I would say. Otherwise, it starts to evaporate too much solvent. In the rocket system of Optibond FL, it's not such a problem because the primer is sealed in the unidose system. But in general, we would never preheat the primer more than 10-15 minutes. The bonding resin can be preheated longer because it doesn't have so much solvents, right?
Thank you so much for this very useful answer. For my
Yes.
question. It's very useful.
So a year ago, you was in Russia with your course. So
Yeah.
what are your impressions of the Russian dentists?
Oh, you know, I met many Russian dentists. We had a whole Russian group come to San Francisco to take my course, and I see a huge talent in Russia. And you know, it's not only Russia. You go to Ukraine and
Yes.
neighboring, and good dentistry there. And I see, you know, those Russian dentists that I met, they really want to go to the next level. And so I was really excited that my book was translated in Russian language for that purpose. You know, we decided to come to Russia last year as a family because it was also an amazing experience. I have to say, you know, Dr. Baburov, who invited me, he took great care of us. So I have to say, our experience in Russia was absolutely outstanding. We had a great time in St. Petersburg. It was a complete experience, you know. It was a great pleasure to lecture, to meet my Russian colleagues who are also passionate about biomimetic dentistry, and to discover the Russian culture, you know, and the Russian history. And being in St. Petersburg was absolutely fantastic. As a family, it was I think my kids will remember this experience for the rest of their lives.
Can you tell the main difference between the dentistry in Eastern Europe and the dentistry in the United States, in your opinion?
Oh, it's of course, I can better speak about dentistry in the United States than I can about Eastern Europe, right? Or I should say Europe in general, right? So I think that American dentistry is a little bit more focused on the business side of dentistry, right? And I don't say that as a negative way. I don't say it negatively because I think that it's important to talk about money when we do dentistry. It's important to serve everybody. That means, you know, we have to have treatment plans also for the poor to be treated. And I think that's something I see here in America. It's a little bit more aggressive in the business standpoint than it is in Europe, right? We can talk about money here a little bit more freely than we can talk about money in Europe. It's not taboo. It's not taboo to be successful. And, you know, I see my European colleagues, for instance, when they go to dental meeting, they usually use their old car. They don't show off their last Porsche. While here is like, oh, you want to bring your Ferrari to the dental meeting because being successful is a celebration of success. So American dentistry, I think, is very strong in periodontics and implant dentistry. I think it's a little bit weaker in prosthodontics and restorative dentistry. And I think that in Europe, it's the opposite. It's a much stronger in, you know, aesthetic restorative dentistry and prosthodontics in Europe. And it's a little bit weaker in Europe in the terms of surgery and periodontics. So that's what I have. So two main differences, I would say, the business aspect of dentistry, and then also disciplines, different strength according to the discipline. You know, here I'm extremely shocked how the prosthodontics principles are old-fashioned in North America. Yeah, and you can find a lot of dental schools still teaching the good old prosthodontic principles, and it's invasive. Sometimes it's really invasive, and that is disappointing. And I think Europe, in terms of, and I include Russia, Europe, in terms of restorative dentistry, is a little bit more advanced in that regard. Yeah.
So your advices for young dentists, for young dental students?
I would say young dental students need guidance, right? Nowadays, the challenge of making, quote, a dentist is that we have too many disciplines to teach, right? As I was telling you, when I was a student, we focused on a limited number of simple procedures like amalgams and crowns, right? And we knew how to do it because there was a limited learning to do. Nowadays, we want the students to know everything, you know, endo, perio, pros with all the different technique, CAD/CAM, implants, restorative dentistry, resin infiltration, bleaching, etc. All these things didn't exist back then. So, but we still have 4 years to make a dentist. So how do we do a dentist? How do we make a dentist in 4 years with so many additional things to teach? So this is the challenge of the new generation. My advice to the young dentist is focus, you know, that is the word, focus. Choose a discipline that you like deeply, that you are passionate with. You know, I did a personal development course a few years ago that was called Strength Finder. And I love that. The principle is that you find what are your strengths and you focus on that. Don't try to improve your weaknesses. You will never be as good improving a weakness as you will be improving your strength. So again, my advice to young people is go and choose what you like in dentistry. If it's endo, go to endo. If it's perio, go to perio. But of course, we need general practitioners who do everything. But this is a very, very special gift. To be able to master everything in dentistry is a very, very special gift. I know only a few individuals. A friend of mine who practices in Basel, Switzerland, his name is Jean-Pierre Ebner. He is one of those few individuals who can practice endodontics, periodontics, place implants, and do outstanding adhesive dentistry. He has 3 specialties. I don't know anybody like him.
Me.
And you.
Yeah, I have a surgery specialty, like a general dentist, like a prosthodontics. So I can do everything.
That's good. So you see, but
So right now you know 2 people.
exactly. So you see, that's a gift that you have, because many people don't. I don't have that gift personally, and that's why I decided to focus in those things. So again, if you have that gift, very good, but it's not the mainstream, right? So my advice is go in that direction, find your specialty area and be the best in that field, and find a good mentor. You know, we talked about that was the first. So it's a perfect way to conclude. We started with mentors and we finish with mentors. Mentors are what I call like a dental father or a dental mother, right? You cannot choose your biological parents, but you can choose a mentor. And so approach those individuals in your specialty that have proven by their science, by their common sense, by their experience, that they are the best, and go follow them, get instruction from them. And yeah, mentoring is essential. So choose your specialty, choose your mentor accordingly. I think that's the best advice I can give you to those young people. And focus, because you know, technology and the young generation, look what's happening. They multitask. They do 20 things at the same time. And at the end, they are not good in anything because they do too many things. And this is the same in the academia. We want to teach students too many things. They ended up graduating and they don't know anything because they have been taught too many different things. You know, I would dream of schools that actually already specialize in the pre-graduate level, you know, where student can already choose a little bit where they want to go in the future. Because we lose a lot of time teaching students, I don't know, periodontics, and their only dream is to become an orthodontist, you know, and everything they learn in perio is going to be really lost because they go in ortho specialty anyway.
Thank you so much. And I have the last one.
Yes.
How does it feel to be the great Pаскаль Манье?
Oh my gosh, what should I say? It feels, you know, I feel privileged to be a member of the humane society on earth. That's the only thing I can tell you. And I feel even more privileged to be a follower of Jesus Christ. That is how it feels. And as a follower of Jesus Christ, you know, you feel very humble because my model is this man called Jesus who walked on this planet 2000 years ago and had a perfect behavior. You know, this is what is amazing about Christianity. And I'm going to conclude with that because it's maybe the most important part of this interview is that there's only one religion and there is only one God who walked with us on this planet. There's only one that became a human being as a model of lifestyle, as a teacher, as someone who gave his life for us, and someone who had no faults, no sin. And the name of this person is Jesus Christ. I mean, do your research. I want to challenge all those colleagues who are listening. Do as I did at age 29. I made a research. With my scientific mind, I looked at the spiritual market out there and what was happening in the world. I looked at Buddhism. I looked at the Quran. I looked at the Torah. I tried to understand my Muslim friends, my Jewish friends, my Buddhist friends. I tried to make a deep and honest, sincere analysis of each religion. And there is only one where God made himself a human being to walk on earth along our side. And that religion is called Christianity. So make your research and you will come to, if you do it sincerely and authentically, you will come to the same conclusion, believe me, because there is no other man than Jesus Christ who did that for us. Mm-hmm. So that's it. God bless you all. And thank you for this time and this interview.
Thank
and
you for your time. Thank you.
I hope it will help many colleagues in their quest.
Yes. Yes.
So
you give a lot of information, a lot of useful information for us. So
look for the truth. Continue to look for the truth.
And I also have to say that I'm writing a book where each chapter is written by the famous dentist, and all of them write manuscript. So
like handwriting.
Yes, yeah, like handwriting. So I will really appreciate if you will write something on the paper and send me a picture, and I will put to the book. If you have a second, I will show you. It's okay?
Yes.
Just 1 second. So I have the book like this. So, and just let me show you. And I have some manuscripts here. So
I see.
I put the name and the manuscript. It will be international. American dentists, Russian dentists, the best dentists in the world. The main question that I want to give them the answer is how to become a successful dentist. So you can write whatever you want. You can something draw. So it's all up to you because it's handwriting. Because I want young students to feel the passion of the person who writes, because it's with because you are writing with the soul, with your your atmosphere, with your.
I agree with you.
So it will be the best book in dentistry. No, not the best because the best is yours, but maybe something near.
Yes. Okay. Perfect.
If you will make it, I would really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dimitri, and all the best to you.
You are a very important person, especially for me.
Thank you.
Because I started reading your books when I was a young student, and it's really important to talk to you right now with the power of internet. So I really appreciate it.
Yes, it's good that we can use this technology, right?
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Okay, bye, Dimitri. Thank you.